Yes, people, Football, and today we are ranking every single current Premier League side and ranking how big their club is in terms of their stature. This is history, fan base, everything includes to give a definitive list. If you're new around here, if you enjoy football related content, please consider subscribing on my road to 700. We're going in the order that is given in the tier list, and the tiers are Gargantuan, that's the top of the top upper echelons, massive, decent club, a big club, and then just a club. no rankings above that and no rankings below that. So yeah, let's go with my first team in the list, Arsenal. My club happens to be the club I support, and Arsenal for me are a massive club. We are the third biggest club in England, in my opinion. Still do believe that, no matter the success of other teams around us and our fall off. We've got tradition throughout our club. We were successful in basically every period we played in, never been relegated, always had class, always had tradition, always been at the cutting edge of innovation in football. That was pioneered by Arsene Wenger. The first team to bring in a dye into the Premier League, first team to get the brand new super stadium in a way. And yeah, Arsenal will forever be a massive club. We're international fans everywhere. But yeah, not quite big enough to be gargantuan in my opinion, but we do sit third in my opinion, and that is massive. Next, Aston Villa, and for me, Aston Villa is a decent club. Like they've won the Champions League, so they've got history around them. They haven't been as good recently in terms of, they're picked up, don't get me wrong, in very recent years, but in terms of that last 10 years or so, they've been poor, dropping off into the Championship. But they are still a decent club. Of course, from Birmingham, they've got a loyal fan base, an older fan base as well that will remember the glory times. They're looking to bring back to it, but they still are a decent club, and they still have got the draw to get potential good managers. Next, we have Brentford, and for me, Brentford, I'm sorry, are just a club. They've been good to get into the Premier League recently, but in terms of stature, they don't really have much. They just got to the Premier League after 50 years. They're a small local club in West London. I've got so much respect for them for making it to the Premier League, but I can't rank them any higher and call them a big club or anything, because they are just a club. Maybe in the future, if they continue to get some wins in the Premier League and stay in the Premier League, they might be able to get promoted, but for now, they're just a club. And unfortunately, that's the same for Brighton. Although Brighton are bigger than Brentford, I also just see Brighton as a club. They haven't really had much success in recent or past years. They're on the coast. They're just a nice place to go on holiday, to be fair, in England. They're decent in terms of they're a Premier League mainstay now, and they've done well this season, but I can't really rank them as a big club by any means. They're just a club. Burnley also will be added to this list of just a club, because these three teams right here, Brentford, Brighton and Burnley, the three Bs, they're just clubs in the Premier League that just haven't had that success in many periods. They haven't got a massive fan base. Their stadiums are average, of course. I actually like Brighton Stadium at Amex, don't get me wrong, and I like Brentford got a new stadium, but they're not massive stadiums. Yeah, if give them a few years, and if they get some trophies, start to push up the table, they might be able to expand and get a bigger club. But for now, they're just a club. Next, Chelsea, and Chelsea are alongside Arsenal are a massive football club. The reason they're not gargantuan is because their tradition isn't really as big as Arsenal or some of the other teams in the Premier League. Their recent success by 100% would grant them the gargantuan spot. They've won the Champions League twice, numerous Premier Leagues, but that's all been since Roman Abramovich took over the club. So I can't put them any higher than massive. They're still a humongous football club. Do not get me wrong. Do not get it twisted. And I just think gargantuan limits them because of their history and where they got their success from. They got their success from money rather than from tradition, which will limit them in my opinion. So I can't put them in gargantuan, but they are still a massive football club. Southampton for me are a big club. Southampton, a big club. They've had tradition throughout their time. They've been a feeder for bigger clubs in terms of their academies. Always respected. Decent club by a long stretch of imagination. I can't put them in that tier list alongside Aston Villa, but they are still a big club in my opinion. You do recognise them. They've of course had Mane, Van Dijk for example come through their ranks. And yeah, let's move on to Leicester. And Leicester for me also are a decent football club. They've won the league. They've won the Premier League, and not a lot of teams on this tier list can say that. So they have to be pushed up the list. They did win the league that season, and that has literally put them up miles. For me, I would have just put them in big club otherwise. They're a decent club now. They've had some kind of tradition. I remember Gary Lineker played for them. But that win in the Premier League really did launch their stature as a club. They've also getting some works in for a new training ground, a new stadium maybe. So they're starting to move like a big club. And now I think they are a decent club. They're alongside Aston Villa for me due to recent success. They're just kind of like Aston Villa's got the past success, Leicester's got the recent success. Norwich City for me are a club, man. I can't put them any higher than that. What can be said? They haven't won enough trophies to be put in a big, decent, massive, or even gargantuan club. So they're just a club. And Norwich are just a yo-yo team. They'll go up the Premier League, down the Premier League, up the Premier League, down the Premier League for the rest of the time. It just seems like West Ham United are a big club for me. They're in London, of course. They moved into the brand new, well, I say brand new, it's about 8 years old now, but the Olympic Stadium that was constructed for the Olympics, they managed to get that, which was a power play for them. Means they didn't have to construct a stadium, which Tottenham have gone on to do, because West Ham and Spurs were battling to take the Olympic Stadium. But it meant they didn't have to buy a new stadium, and it helped, and they're doing well recently. Like, they've always had good foundations at the club, they've got a loyal backing. They're in the Europa League. They're starting to push up the table. So things are looking bright for West Ham United recently, and they are a big club. Wolves also are a big club in the Midlands around Birmingham area. They've got a good fan base. They've got a loyal fan base. They've got a fan base that has gone through some tough times. Wolves are one of the oldest teams in the Premier League. If not probably the oldest, due to the fact that when football first came about, the way fans used to travel to games was from trains. So that means that teams in the Midlands were set up football first because the trains just flowed through there. So Wolves are obviously a historic club. Haven't won as much recently, of course, but they are still a big club and one of the foundations of football in this country. Next, Liverpool, and that is the first Gargantuan club. Liverpool are a Gargantuan football club. There's no two ways about it. They've won everything in the game. They've even won the Premier League now, if that was the one thing holding them back. They've got tradition throughout their whole side. You got some absolute legends. The number seven shirt at Liverpool is iconic. You're talking about players like Luis Suarez, Ian Rush, Keegan, Dalglish. Like, look how these players that Liverpool have had. They're just absolutely unbelievable football club, and what they've won. They've even got set to expand Anfield. They're not going to move out of Anfield, which I think, to be fair, is a good play. Anfield's got too much tradition. I guess they kind of learned from what Arsenal did, moving out from Highbury and moving to the Emirates. It kind of lost a bit of tradition with the club. Liverpool are sticking with Anfield. It's one of the most iconic stadiums in football. It's got one of the most iconic fan bases in football. So yeah, Liverpool worthy spot in Gargantuan Football Club. Crystal Palace for me are I'm teetering between big club and A club. I'm just gonna put them in a club because, in fact, I just don't think they've got as much relevance as West Ham, Southampton, and Wolves. Crystal Palace have got to bring a new identity with Patrick Vieira, but I can't really put them higher than just a club. They haven't got enough fans compared to the others. They're nice, don't get me wrong, in South London, but I just don't see them pushing up to be relevant as a big club, decent club, massive club, and Gargantuan club. I'm deep in it like this. If you were away from football and I told you to recognise these clubs, you're not really recognising Crystal Palace, let's be real with it. Next, Everton. Everton are a decent club. They've got past success. I can't put them in massive or Gargantuan, but they are a decent club. Of course, they're just the neighbours to Liverpool, which really hinders their stature because their neighbours Liverpool are doing bits compared to them, but they are still a decent club. Everton also got plans to renew their stadium, and they can still attract top managers. Like Carlo Ancelotti is not a bum, he's not a casual, he's a good manager, and he's gone to Everton for a reason. They've got stature as a football club, and yeah, they're a decent club. Next, Watford. Watford for me are just a club as well. I'm sorry, Watford fans, but can't put you any higher, to be fair. You're not as low as some of the other teams on this list. It's just I can't put you in terms of big, decent, massive Gargantuan because you haven't won enough trophies in your time to really compete, and even now you're not competing. Next, you have Leeds, and Leeds are a big club as well. Leeds are a big club. The reason is because Leeds they struggled to get back into Premier League. So recently, not as much, but traditionally they've always competed in the top competitions. Of course, they win the Champions League at times, Cup Winners' Cup, etc. Champions Cup, all that stuff. So they're about it, Leeds. In recent years, they've kind of fallen off, but they are still a big club. That's why I haven't put them in decent as much. I don't feel like, to be fair, they could push decent, to be fair, because I'm putting Aston Villa in decent. So Leeds have got a case, but I just don't see Leeds having the same tradition that Aston Villa had. Aston Villa winning Champions Leagues, etc. Next, Man City, and Man City are a massive club. It's just the way it is. The money, is it money? Yes, but they are massive. They're not anywhere near Gargantuan, don't get me wrong. And for me, they're the fifth behind Arsenal and Chelsea, but they are a massive club. They've won the Premier League, yet to win the Champions League. They're starting to get a global fan base. A global fan base of, let's be honest, a bit of glory hunters, but they are getting a global fan base nonetheless. They've got the money from Abu Dhabi, I believe. So, look, Man City are a massive football club because of their fan base, because of their manager. They've got the players they've got, and they will continue to be a massive club. I just don't think, alongside Chelsea, the same reason, I just don't think they'll push for Gargantuan. Manchester United next, and Manchester United are a Gargantuan football club. Also the top of Premier League football. Them and Liverpool share the spot. Them two, the traditional football clubs. They're traditional successful football clubs. They're even successful now. They're bringing so much money. Like, they're always going to make income because they're two just worldwide global football clubs and the main two football clubs in the Premier League. Manchester United, of course, recently haven't won silverware under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but they always seem to be relevant even when they're not doing anything. That's why they are a gargantuan football club. They do need to win some trophies, because last time they won a trophy, I believe, was the Europa League or FA Cup under Jose Mourinho. So they need to start getting into the titles. But of course, under Ferguson, they won so much, and they've always won stuff under whoever they've got as their manager. Next, Newcastle United. Newcastle United are a decent club, decent football club. Of course, new owners now. It was about time, because Mike Ashley was bringing this club, was running it into the ground. Let's be real with it. Newcastle deserve better. They've got a great fan base. They're definitely a decent club. I can't put them any lower than that. I can't put them high because they have been in the Championship. They haven't had recent success in terms of that, but they are still a decent football club. And last but not least, Tottenham Hotspur are also a decent club. Spurs, I can't put in massive gargantuan because they haven't won the trophies that those clubs have, but they are, let's be honest, the closest to it out of all the teams on this list. They've got a brand new stadium, brand new manager in Conte is hoping to bring them silverware. They just can't win enough trophies to get into that massive or gargantuan status. They are still a global football club. They're not as global as the five above them, let's be real with it. But they are still a global football club and still a big football club in England for sure. But that's my final tier list, ranking every single current Premier League side and how I rank them in terms of their football stature as a club. Leave in the comment section down below if you agree or disagree with my tier list. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing on my road to 700. I've been YFootball and I'll catch you guys in the next video.